So my ask was, can you show me which Christians used this Injil and what it was?
Okay.
Because you seem to believe that it was in the original language. So I would ask, if you believe that from the Quran, can you even prove that evidence from the Quran? Can you even demonstrate from the Quran that it was even in that language?
Look, I will demonstrate it.
Right.
The Prophet Allah Jalla wa Ala says, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَا مِن رَسُولٍ إِلَّا بِلِسَانِ قَوْمِهِ لِمَاذا لِيَتَدَبَّرُوا. Look, that we have not sent a messenger except in his own people's language. This is your proof from the Quran.
Okay. Now, would
You
you
ask for a proof, I
would
gave
you
you.
agree? The word Injil is not a native Arabic word.
It is.
It's from a
It is.
cognate.
It is. Look, you are not a professor of Arabic.
So, do you know Al Sayuti? I'm sure you do.
You do not know like the evangel.
Yeah.
It means
The good news.
The good news.
Right.
Yeah.
Now-
so that Injil, like Injil, like for example, we
you know
call,
what that
we
is in
call the
Aramaic?
Psalms. Just wait.
All right.
We call the Psalms. We call them Zabur. Okay. Zabara in Arabic,
Right.
it means written. Now even in Hebrew it's Zabur, but you call them Psalms. Okay? So if we come to play with the lexicons and that, you have that's not a proof you can stand on.
Because I can appeal to people like Al Sayuti, who did a exegesis of words. Because because you'll be aware that some of the a reference. So you'd be aware that some of the I believe Al Sayuti did a work, and some of the early scholars were surprised that some of the foreign words.
Bring me the Suyuti.
Yeah, I will, but I'm going to make my point.
The claim that Zabur originates from the Arabic word zabara, and that this term is directly related to the Hebrew Tehillim, or the Christian tradition of the Psalms, is a serious error, both historically and linguistically. It is an example of constructing a religious narrative by reversing the chronological logic. In reality, the Hebrew term Tehillim was already known and widely used long before formal Arabic developed, let alone before the Quran was written. The word Tehillim comes from the Hebrew root halal, which means to praise or to exalt. This indicates that the content of the book is a collection of praises to God. It is the plural form of Tehillah, meaning a single praise. This book was written in Hebrew and circulated centuries before the birth of Muhammad. Even when it was translated into Greek in the 3rd century BC through the Septuagint, it was named Psalmi, which also means songs of praise, especially those accompanied by stringed instruments. From there, the Latin term psalmi emerged, followed by the English psalms. At no point did the Jewish people ever refer to this book as Zabur. Likewise, Christians have never used that term in their scriptures. The word Zabur appears exclusively in the Quran, and when Muslims mention it, they refer to a book given to David. Yet strangely, the book in question is not recognized by Jews or Christians under that name. This disconnects the term Zabur from the actual historical revelation preserved in both the Hebrew and Christian traditions. When Muslims attempt to explain that Zabur comes from Zabara, meaning to write or to engrave, they are, in fact, constructing an artificial etymology to justify a Quranic term. However, within the linguistic structure of Arabic, that root is more closely associated with the act of inscribing or carving onto a hard surface, not with the concept of praise or spiritual songs as conveyed in Tehillim or Psalms. Therefore, even in terms of meaning, the connection is irrelevant.
That some of the early scholars were quite surprised that there are foreign words in the Quran, because the Quran says it's a clear Arabic book.
No problem. Just bring it to
Right.
me.
And my
The
second-
original. I'm an Arab. So I'm an Arab speaker.
Right.
So I need to see it in the original, please. Yeah.
Well, I can give you the reference, so I will have the English translation, so you can
tell
then
me, tell me.
check.
I'll still have the English translation.
Of course, I'm very aware that the word Injil, and there's many other like Hebrew words. For example, if you're Arab, my pronunciation might be a bit off. Bethora. Bethora.
What do you mean?
What does that word mean?
It might be
You know,
your presentation, yeah.
That's
Okay.
what I mean.
All right. Let me. Okay.
ومبشرا.
Bashiran.
Glad tidings.
ومبشرا.
Right.
Glad tidings.
Glad tidings.
Yeah, mubashiran.
Now, my point was, because you said like John and Juan, right, being the same. So in Arabic, the Hebrew is Bethora. It's very similar.
We know that.
So
We know
that,
there's a lot of
yeah, but
similarities.
my point.
It's a Semitic language.
Yeah,
It's a sister language.
yeah, but
It's a sister
but my
language.
point is that is actually the root word of Gospels. So when the Quran uses the word Injil, it uses it from the Greek, because if it used it
It doesn't
directly.
use it from the Greek. You know why?
No, but let me finish
Because
my
Allah
point.
Says,
Yeah,
okay.
but my point is,
Okay, sorry,
you
yeah.
both agreed. So that word, good, glad tidings, means also good news, which is the meaning of the word evangelion. That's why we say we come with the Gospels, which is the good news or the glad tidings. So my point is,
But it's an Arabic word.
but it's taken from.
No, it's not taken from. They are
Wait,
sister languages.
wait. Okay, wait. Okay, wait. Let me explain.
Do you know that Arabic came before Hebrew?
Let me make my point again. So I'm saying.
I'm before Greek.
I'm saying.
I'm before.
Wait.
If anything, the Hebrew word
older than.
Wait.
No, because you spoke about.
No, but you're
I'm not missing.
You're misconstruing my point.
I'm misconstruing.
You are, because let me
Just
explain.
listen.
No, but let me explain my point,
No.
then answer it.
I've been listening
Well,
to you.
okay, what is my point?
Okay. No,
Yeah, but say what my point is.
because you're talking about the Arabic language and its origins. You're talking about the etymology of
Right.
the words.
word,
Okay.
right.
Now, the issue you have is
Right.
that you don't even get the history of the language. Arabic is older than Hebrew.
And older than Greek.
Yeah.
And older than
That's
Latin.
irrelevant.
No, it is.
I'll tell you why.
Because-
I'll tell you why.
I'll tell you
Because
why.
every scholar will tell you there are loan words in the Quran. For example, it talks about.
Not loan.
For example,
Not loan.
istabarak.
No,
The
loan.
word istabarak in the Quran
No,
is
loan.
taken from.
Just show us the words.
Arabized.
Yeah.
Arabized.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean learn. For example.
If a Muslim claims that Arabic is older than Hebrew, the question that must be asked is, older based on what? Is it based on a writing system, on historical documentation, or merely on the belief that Arabic is the language of paradise? In the field of Semitic linguistics, Hebrew is recognized as a branch of the Northwest Semitic group, alongside Aramaic and Ugaritic. This language has been used in written form for over 3,000 years, well before the Israelites settled permanently in the land of Canaan. Archaeological evidence, such as the Gezer calendar, 10th century BCE, and Hebrew texts from the Qumran caves demonstrate that Hebrew possesses a deeply rooted and well-established writing tradition. The very name Hebrew is directly tied to the identity of Abraham. In Genesis 14:13, Abraham is called Abram the Hebrew, Avram ha-Ivri in the Hebrew text. So if Abraham himself is called a Hebrew, it follows that his linguistic and cultural roots are tied to that heritage. It becomes quite problematic, then, for someone to claim that Arabic is older, while the central figure in the Quranic narrative, Ibrahim, belongs to the Hebrew line. On the other hand, classical Arabic, as used in the Quran, only began to emerge in literary form around the 6th century CE. Before that, Arabic existed primarily in oral form, with unstable writing systems such as Nabatean or Sabaean scripts, and most of its poetic tradition was transmitted orally. This means that as a literary and liturgical system, Arabic came much later than Hebrew. When Muslims attempt to elevate Arabic as the oldest language, it is more of a theological assertion than a historical one. Even the Quran itself acknowledges that previous revelations were given in other languages, which by context clearly refers to Hebrew and Aramaic. It is therefore highly illogical to consider those earlier languages as less ancient, solely to elevate the status of Arabic.
For example, a word
Right.
like vice versa. Vice versa. What language is that?
I'm not sure that
It's
word.
Latin. It's
Okay.
Latin. But in English you said vice versa.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So that it's been anglicized. Yeah. Anglicized. Cul-de-sac. What
Yeah,
is it? What
from
language
French.
is it? French.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
But in here you say cul-de-sac.
Yeah, so the
Cul-de-sac. It's
English,
been-
yeah, the English has etymology in the French, so we know
Well, because
from the interaction with the French,
because
that's where we got the words. Yes,
Because in here, the French have ruled for years and hundreds of years and hundreds
exactly.
of years.
So what I'm saying is that you're making my point and going against
I'm
your
making
point.
your point.
Let me just
Actually,
read this.
it's against your point.
What you're
And
saying,
I'll-
there's a difference between you need to make
Arabized
yeah,
and learning.
Exactly. You're making you're not getting a distinction. Arabized
Yes.
is different to essentially borrowing a word from a different language.
Okay, what is the?
Something like that.
Let me even break. What does the Injil mean? What does it? If it's a natural Arabic word, it will have a meaning.
Look, Injil is a book that was revealed.
But what
to
does it
Isa.
mean? Every word has a
Are you-
meaning.
no,
Yes, I can agree. It was given to, according to your belief, given to Isa,
Isa,
but the
well,
word itself will have a meaning if it's a natural word.
Look,
That's why you
I
can't
will-
give me a meaning, because it's taken from the Greek, so it doesn't have an actual meaning.
Look, nothing now with the Sheikh Google, nothing is beyond the.
Yes, and whilst you're looking,
Yeah.
I'll bring the reference next week. Imam al-Sayyuti
Okay, yeah. bring
and
it.
other scholars' opinions such as Ibn al-Sukbi and al-Kafiz Ibn Hajar collected about 125 non-Arabic words in the Quran consisting of 13 languages. They are
Yeah,
Persian.
it doesn't
So
mean-
but
who's the source? Who's the source?
oh no, yes, Google.
No, who's the source?
No, just
but where's
Google.
the source from?
Yeah, I'm gonna. That's why I said
Yeah,
next week
I
I'll
mean,
bring
it's
you.
Arabic.
Yeah, but,
This
but
is
what I'm trying to say, why would al-Sayyuti say, for example,
You
who's a scholar?
are
I want
making
the
this
source.
conclusion.
I want
You
the
are making
source.
this conclusion based on what you're reading here, yeah? First and foremost, bring us a source so
Yeah,
we can read it.
that's fine. But why would Allah, who spoke
No,
the Quran
because-
from
no,
eternity?
because- hold on.
No, but wait. Even if the Quran, if Arabic is older than Greek, it's older than Hebrew.
but
Why would it Arabize a word that it's older than? It means it has to have borrowed that word before it became
because
Arabized.
Look. No, I know where he's going.
Right.
Look. You want to go to Bishara. That's
Yes.
the word you were. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Bishara, it's good news.
Right.
Good news. Glad tidings.
Now,
Glad tidings.
but
Glad
let me just
tidings.
interject.
Glad
So,
tidings.
yeah, so
Glad
Jesus in Aramaic would have been saying, I come with the Bashara to all the people.
Yeah.
And then in English, we later took that word from the Greek into the English that we
from
have.
the Greek, yeah.
Yes.
That's correct.
Right.
Now, you took it from the Greek.
Yes.
But we took it and Arabized it. That's what we call mu'arraba. Mu'arraba. It means it became part of the Arabic.
Yes.
It's not anymore Greek or that. Yeah.
Right.
So it's mu'arrab. And this is that's why we say we don't borrow, but it is Arabized.
Right.
That's
Now this is my point. Is Bishara the same as Injil?
It is.
Yes.
It's the same word.
It is the same word. It is the same word. I'm telling you, it's the same
The
word.
etymology is not the same.
Doesn't matter. Do you have any idea? Like, for example,
You're saying the meaning is the same.
Look,
But
No,
if
for
I said to
example,
someone,
friend, no,
I bring
like,
you
for
glad
example,
Injil,
no,
they
so for
wouldn't take it
example-
as I bring you glad
For
tidings.
example, friend. It's the same meaning, but different, what do you call it, context so they use. So for example, when you say friend, we have sahib and we have khalil. Okay? It means the exact same thing, but they
And a sahiba, it means the wife, and it means a girlfriend.
Okay.
Exactly.
So is
Depends
okay.
on the
Let me
context
roll it back.
determines how it's
Is
used.
Injil Arabized from
It's
something?
Arabized,
What is it Arabized from?
The Greek.
The Greek.
Yes.
That's my point. That's what I've been
So what?
saying.
So what?
So my
It's Arabized.
word.
okay,
It's
maybe I
Arabized.
use.
That's what we're
Okay,
saying.
fair enough.
That's what I
I'll
mean.
correct
That's
my.
what I
Okay,
mean.
no problem.
So look,
I'll,
it means
I'll
Bishara.
Right.
It's taken from the
Yes.
from the Greek.
Okay, no
but it's
problem.
Arabized.
Right. So my
Okay?
question is.
Otherwise, it would have been evangelium.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah. So
No, that's
No,
not
no,
the question.
no.
The word Injil, known today in Arabic, does not originate from a native Arabic root. Rather, it is an Arabized form of the Greek term euangelion. In Greek, euangelion means good news and is one of the most theologically significant terms in the New Testament, used to describe the message of salvation brought by Jesus Christ. This word was not formed arbitrarily. It is composed of two Greek components, eu, meaning good, and angelos, meaning messenger, or one who brings a message. Thus, evangelion literally means a good message brought by a messenger. This is the root of the English word gospel and the Arabic word Injil. Interestingly, the concept of good news existed long before the New Testament, deeply rooted in the Hebrew scriptures. The Hebrew term is bishvora, which also means good news. It appears in various contexts, including reports of military victory, joyful announcements, and proclamations of deliverance. In the Septuagint, the Greek translation of the Hebrew Bible, the word besora is translated as euangelion. Therefore, when the New Testament writers used euangelion, they were not inventing a new idea, but rather building directly upon the existing theological foundation of the Hebrew tradition. The gospel is not a new message divorced from Israel's story. It is the fulfillment of prophecy and long-awaited hope. The term Injil, used by Arabic-speaking Christians, was not an Islamic invention, nor is it evidence that the word has an Arabic etymology. On the contrary, Injil had already been used by Arab Christians under the influence of Syriac and Byzantine Christianity centuries before the rise of Islam in the Arabian Peninsula. Before the 7th century AD, long before the Quran was revealed, Christianity had spread widely throughout the Middle East, including regions where Aramaic, Syriac, Nabatean, and various early Arabic dialects were spoken. Prominent theological centers at that time included Edessa, Urfa, and Antioch, where New Testament texts had been translated into Syriac, a dialect of Aramaic that played a crucial role in Eastern Christian liturgy. In Syriac tradition, the Greek word evangelion was transliterated as euangelion. This term then spread to Arab Christian communities living along the border regions of Syria and Arabia, such as in Bostra, Petra, and northern Hijaz. As these Arab Christians began using Arabic in daily life, they did not invent a new term for the gospel. Instead, they carried over the established word, euangelion, into Arabic as al-Injil. This means that the term Injil, used in Arabic Christian contexts, originated from Syriac Christian tradition, which had been well established from the 2nd to 5th centuries AD and was already in use in liturgy and theological instruction. This predates the Quran, whose first alleged revelations began around 610 AD, by several centuries. So by the time Muhammad received his first revelation, Arab Christians were already familiar with the term Injil, had access to it in Arabic, and were producing Christian writings using that term. Therefore, when the Quran uses the word Injil, it is not introducing a new revelation or a uniquely Arabic term. Islam simply adopted a word that was already widely used in Arab Christianity, embedding it into its own narrative, but without referencing the actual content or textual structure of the true gospel. The fact that modern Muslims cannot trace the root of Injil within any triliteral Arabic pattern, while Arab Christians had been using it for centuries as a direct transliteration of the Greek via Syriac, proves a crucial point. Islam borrowed a theological term without possessing its historical foundation or original text. In contrast, Arab Christianity stands on a continuous historical and theological heritage, passed down from the apostles through the Greek and Syriac traditions into the Arab Christian communities that existed long before the rise of Islam.